I was obsessed with food because it was not healthy.
Yeah.
But it got me where I am now because I would take pictures of all these recipes and I started to cook and I got really into cooking. And then, it definitely became a form of therapy for me. I also, one big change was my first few years in New York, I was totally like numbing the pain from going out all the time, partying all the time, doing that whole, song and dance. And it took me a couple years to realize that was not the best option. And so I stopped.
Hey, Freedom family. Welcome to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. My name is Kira Miller. I am the founder and host of this series. Every other week, we'll bring you some of the most life-giving conversations that will empower you to overcome your shame, own your truth, and unlock your freedom. Thank you for joining this conversation today. Now let your freedom journey begin. Hey, Freedom family. Welcome back to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast. My name is Kira Miller, and I am the founder and host of this series. Today's guest, we had Laura Lee, who is a recipe developer, holistic chef, and she's also a writer, so she creates cookbooks and stuff. And we had pretty cool conversation. We talked actually a lot about like business and stuff, which is a total passion of mine. And it was really cool to hear how she's ended up starting her business as a holistic chef. She started it when she was really like struggling actually with eating and counting calories and like allowing food to control her. So she took that and she turned it into a passion, which was really cool to hear because that's like exactly what I've done with my own story and this podcast. And so that was just really special to be able to talk to her about that. And I really believe that as someone who did for her struggle with eating, if you have that same struggle and you maybe feel uncomfortable in your own skin as well, I really believe that she's going to help you unlock your freedom. And so I am stoked to share this one with you today. Here we go. So who would you say Laura Lee was like in the beginning of your journey with shame?
Oh, geez Louise. I mean, I've had shameful memories my whole life. Yeah. I think we all have. I think they're, a range, and it's all relative, things that caused me shame when I was little, but it stuck with me, wouldn't now as an adult. Right. But I think it became particularly poignant for me when I went into the real world after college thinking I would take care of myself. Because I was like a great student, like I knew how to do school, and I always excelled at the things that I tried within the structure of like an academic world, like a school world. Yeah. And then I got in the real world and I was just bad. I was just bad at it. I was bad at my jobs. Okay. And it was a horrible feeling. And I think that was the first time where I really started to notice that, that feeling of shame.
What kind of jobs did you have?
So, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. That was like my life trajectory.
Interesting.
I mean, I did mock trial in high school, which is...
I feel like you carry yourself like you could be a lawyer, though.
Hey, thanks.
I mean,
seriously. So I got something from it. Well, the thing is, it's so fun when you're doing it. A lot of like cities or schools will have these programs where you're doing these like murder cases and whatever. I mean, it's really interesting. So that's all I knew. I thought that was law. So I was like, like mock trial was amazing. So then I was like, I'll be an English major in college. And I did that. And then I thought I'd moved to New York after college. So I went to Virginia, and there's like a mass exodus up to New York every year. I don't know why. Everyone moves up there.
I actually know that because my brother's fiance... Well, she didn't go to Virginia. She went to Washington and Lee.
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
Yeah, and like actually a lot of people in her family went to Virginia, and she said the same thing.
It's so
like,
wild.
Everyone goes to New York City.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Everyone goes up there. Yeah. So I was like, cool, I'll go up there. Mm-hmm. I'll get a paralegal job. Yeah. And I'll apply for law schools. Mm-hmm. So I got a paralegal job at this huge corporate firm in the city. And I mean, 3 weeks later, I am not kidding you, I was like standing on the street corner, like, this was the worst idea ever. I have no desire to be a lawyer. This is not what I thought. It was nothing like what I knew. And now, granted, it was 2008. It was like when nothing was like merging or being acquired. But when something did happen, it was like super stressful. But I hated it. And I was bad at it. Yeah. I was really bad at whatever it means to be a paralegal. I was really bad at it. Yeah. So that was super tough because I had no idea what else I wanted to do.
Right.
I thought I had it all figured out, and then, the rug just totally got pulled out from under me. So
totally. Well, how did you, well, okay, before we go into like, how did you get into being a chef and stuff, but what were like the voices in your head telling you? It sounds like one, I am bad at all these things. Not I am a bad person, but like I am bad at all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But what other voices were kind of in your head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such an interesting question because I think the voice, what I would have said then was what I thought was kind of like my, inner conscience or something like that. But I really think it was just my ego that was talking to me at that time. I think it was just telling me, a lot of self-limiting beliefs about what I was capable of, particularly as a woman, that I'd hit some kind of a wall, that I was only going to be good if I was at school, but out in the real world, I wasn't capable of taking care of myself or doing anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, it was just so much negative self-talk and very, very much a feeling of being out of control, which was really, it was brutal.
And you didn't feel like you could provide for yourself financially, right?
I didn't. Yeah, that was when it started.
Okay.
I had never really thought about providing for myself.
Yeah.
I was very blessed to have my schools paid for.
Me too.
So that was the first time where I really was on my own. My parents were very clear about that, post-college, like, which is great. It's great. But it was the first time I really thought about it. And when you're in New York, if you're not in finance or you're not an actual lawyer or like maybe a doctor, you're doing something creative that makes nothing.
Yeah.
Literally, right. Like nothing.
Yep.
And so I did have some, people who were in creative fields, but their parents were paying their rent. And so there really weren't many choices for me because I knew I wanted to stay in New York. I did not want to come home to Nashville, like, with my tail between my legs, having no idea what I was going to do, But so I stayed in that job. I mean, I stayed there for a while. I stayed there for 4 years, 4 years too long. Yeah, I ended up actually reverse commuting. So I did like paralegal work in Greenwich, Connecticut my last 2 years. It's so weird. I don't know what happened. It's fine. It's just weird. But yeah, so it was around when I started to realize I didn't want to be a lawyer. That was when I was like, dang, this is a scary feeling because I want to support myself and I'm not really sure how.
Okay. So then how did you end up falling into being a chef?
Yeah. So really, so when I first moved and I started to really struggle being there, I'm a very anxiety prone person and my anxiety like totally took over. And the way that it showed up for me was controlling my food a lot of the time. That was like one thing I could control. So I'd kind of become food obsessed, but in like not a healthy way at all, calorie counting and all of that. But because of that, I found myself gravitating towards going to bookstores. So The Office, there was like, because it was 2008, like it was dead. There was nothing going on. I could legitimately leave my office for like 5 or 6 hours and no one would care. Just go like wandering around New York City. And it was super weird.
Dang.
So I did. So I would leave. I didn't want to go too far. And so there was like a Barnes and Noble right around the corner from my building. And I would go there and I would just sift through the cookbooks. And I was I was obsessed with food because it was not healthy.
Yeah.
But it got me where I am now because I would take pictures of all these recipes and I started to cook and I got really into cooking. And then, it definitely became a form of therapy for me. I also, one big change was my first few years in New York, I was totally like numbing the pain from going out all the time, partying all the time, doing that whole, song and dance. And it took me a couple years to realize that was not the best option. And so I stopped. So at this point, my friends were all sleeping in every weekend and I was up by myself and I had all these recipes and it was sort of like a combination of those two things that led me to starting to adventure around the city. So on Saturdays and Sundays, I would like put on this little North Face backpack that I had and I'd put some like water and snacks and I'd spend the whole day wandering around New York, discovering farmers markets and grocery stores and all this cool stuff. Yeah, it was awesome. And I'd bring the recipes with me and I'd get the ingredients I needed. And come home and my friends would be out. So I'd have the apartment to myself to just cook. And as I started to actually like cook with real food as opposed to like calorie counting with like, you know, packaged foods. Man, I mean, like 6 months into it, my anxiety was so much better. It was crazy. Yeah. I mean, I was at the point where I was spending thousands of dollars going to the ER because I thought I was having a heart attack because I was having such bad panic attacks and heart palpitations and like agoraphobia, like really not liking being around, you know, crowd. Worst place to have that.
Totally.
And that got so much better after 6 months. And I
Just
thought
eating
it was the coolest thing I had ever heard and seen because no one was talking about food and your mental health at the time.
Totally.
It was just the physical stuff. And there was no question that for me, there was a direct correlation between what I was eating and my mental health.
I'd say, yeah.
And that's how I fell in love with it. I mean, I really did have a moment on a street corner, second street corner moment. It was actually really weird now that I think about it. I've never put that together. Yeah, 2 of my like big revelations
literally
in
on
New York.
street corners.
3! My 3 big revelations in New York were on like streets or street corners, like in the city walking around. So the first one was that I didn't want to be a lawyer. The second one was that I knew that I wanted to share this information about, you know, mental health and food. And then the third was when I made the decision to go to the culinary school. So, so I was totally into it. Like I was, you know, deep diving and I felt amazing and all this stuff. And so one day I Googled healthy cooking schools. I was just like, I don't know, maybe that's like a thing. Yeah. Maybe it's a thing. And there's only 2 in the entire country that are like health focused actual cooking schools where you get like a chef's degree. And one of them is in New York. And so right. So I walked over there. It was like, it's in Chelsea. It's like a 20-minute walk from my apartment. Fell in love with it. Knew it was where I needed to be. Yeah. Still took me a little while to get the courage up to go. But the job that I had at the time, which was in Connecticut, honestly, it was rough. Like, I don't know if you've ever had like a Mean Girls experience.
No. But I mean, I was bullied, but it wasn't awful.
It was a form of bullying for sure. I mean, you know, that would be like me, like showing up here and being like, hey, how are you? Yeah. And you just like turn away.
Yep.
Like I was like, is that a thing? Is that real?
Wait, and this happened in college?
No, this was
at the cooking school.
This was at the second job that I had. This was at the second paralegal job. Okay. Yeah, so this was when I was reverse commuting out to Connecticut, doing paralegal stuff. Yeah, and it was horrible. And I would go to work with butterflies in my stomach, and it was terrible. But I'm so glad because I think, especially, you know, with the struggles that I was having with my own, like, you know, beliefs about my ability to take care of myself and all that, had it not been that bad and that painful, I don't think I would have. Yeah, I don't think I would have left because, you know, I kind of had tentatively told my parents I was interested in culinary school, and they just honestly, like, they didn't get it. They thought I was crazy.
I totally get that.
Right.
My parents the same.
So, so finally I did. And, you know, and very serendipitously, like, so I enrolled in culinary school. I got in and quit my job or put in my notice. Yeah. And then a few days later, I was at my desk, like, how the hell am I going to pay for culinary school? And a friend of mine called me and she was like, hey, I'm working for this company. They make like these like granola bars and they need a Northeastern marketing manager. It's completely flexible and creative and da-da-da-da. She was like, do you know anyone who'd be interested? And I was like, yes, me. Hi. Yeah. Pick me. That's insane. And so that week I got a job. And then, you know, literally a few weeks later, I was in culinary school. I was working for this company. And so I was working full time and in school part time. Yeah. And I went to school and became a health supportive chef at this culinary school. So
what?
Yeah, it was cool.
That's
it was weird.
Sick.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So when did you move back here?
So I moved. So culinary school was about a year, and I knew the whole time that I was in school I wanted to move back to Nashville. So I moved the day after graduation, which was August 1st, 2013. So I just celebrated my, I can't do math, 6-year anniversary.
Yes.
Literally, I mean, I got here and it was crazy. I'd never been happier. I just felt so like aligned, but absolutely terrified. I had no idea how to make money. I mean, what is a health supportive chef? I don't even know. I don't know now. 6 years later, I have no idea. I have no idea. So. It's the title that the school came up with to like set us apart, you know, whatever. So I bought my domain name, which is llbalance.com. And yeah, it was just like a crapshoot from there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, and then talk about, wait, you were married, right?
Yep. So I was
when
married.
You were here or?
So I met my ex-husband right when I moved back. 2 months later we met, and we were both at a time in our life where we felt like, I think marriage was the next the next step. It was the thing to do, and we had like such a magnetic attraction, and he's an amazing person, and it was like, he was my white knight. And I think part of the reason I wanted to rush the engagement and everything is because I've had a lot of insecurities about taking care of myself, and he wanted to take care of me, you know? And so I think looking back, we didn't give ourselves enough time to just date and be in a relationship. And, it moved really fast. And I think so I was starting to build my business, but also like getting into this whole like domestic role that I really wasn't ready for. And I think partly, I don't think we knew what we wanted. Totally. I think actually really me, I mean, he was pretty clear that he wanted a, traditional family life from the beginning. And I thought that I did. I thought I was like down for that whole thing. I mean, really, I was kind of like, well, maybe the food stuff will be like an expensive hobby for me,
For sure.
And over time, I realized that I wanted that it was like my everything, that I really wanted to make this a business, and that I needed that for myself. Right. And that, I think I realized that the future I imagine for myself is a much more untraditional one than a lot of women, especially in the South. Like, I don't want a lot of the same things that they do.
Totally.
And so,
which is hard when you live here.
It's really hard. Yeah, it's
I
really
understand.
hard. Yeah. I'm really grateful to have met some women in the last year who like kind of are on the same wavelength. But yeah, I mean, truly, like that was a discovery I made about myself while we were together. And so, we were together for almost 5 years total. Okay. But it was, we just near the end, it was like I knew that I wanted him to have everything he wanted, and he wanted me to have everything I wanted. And so we split a little over a year ago. Okay. And man, like, I am so grateful. Like, it's a brutal experience. I wish no one ever had to go through divorce. Right. But ours was about as easy as it gets. Okay. It was super friendly and super quick. And
it sounds like because you kind of realized for both of you, like, what your needs were, and like you respected that.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was ugly. It wasn't like someone did something, like he's incredible. Yeah. But it was just that we were going to completely go in opposite directions with what we wanted for the future, and neither of us felt loved or seen, which like is at the core of a relationship. Right. You have to feel seen. Yes. Totally. And so I'm really glad. I mean, I get why people let things get really bad before they split, but I'll tell you, like, if you can really like tune into that gut instinct and and end a relationship before it gets really ugly, it's actually a lot easier.
Totally.
So yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So you had to almost relearn how to provide for yourself yet again.
Yeah. I mean, really, I had never learned to do it in this career. Okay. Like, as a chef, I was taking care of myself as a paralegal in New York, but barely scraping by. Yeah. But I was for the first time in a position where I really needed to, like, telescope out and think about, what is this going to look like? Like, how do I create a business where I really feel independent long term, so that I don't ever feel like I need to rush into a relationship, and I don't really know what I did to figure that out, other than, I mean, I have like tangible things. Like, I have a great, financial planner, and like, people and mentors and stuff that I talk to.
But you still have to figure that out.
Yeah, but man, I had to figure it out. And really it was, I had to completely like shift my mindset and my perspective about money.
Yeah.
You know?
So was it very like limiting and stuff before that?
Yeah, totally. I completely had a storyline, which I think honestly a lot of women do. I had a hardcore storyline that like I'm incapable of making a lot of money.
Same.
I need a man to take care of me. I'm going to hit a ceiling at some point.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options. I mean, these stories were just constantly running through my head, and
Totally.
I believed them and I bought into them, you know, hook, line, and sinker until I had no choice but to question them. And somehow I was able to get enough perspective to realize that they were just stories I was telling myself.
Right.
And I think, you know, why not me? Why? I mean, there's so many amazing women I admire doing cool things in the world and offering valuable content while also making money.
Yep.
And that's I mean, there's also, you know, I had storylines about what money means, is that it's bad or it makes me greedy, or that somehow making money diminishes when I, you know, if I'm doing a collaboration with a brand. I had a really hard time initially asking them to pay me to do that collaboration. But then I was like, I'm not going to share about something that I don't believe in anyway, you know, and that it doesn't take away from that. So I had to like really work through and unwind a lot of that.
Yeah. You had to probably figure out your why behind everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, the why I think was actually probably the most constant, steadfast thing there always. It was like my why for my business is like this unshakable core of simply like adding value to people's lives, you know, but it got so like mired in by all this other stuff going around. And
especially when you're in your own business, because you literally have to think about all these different things externally when really it's like, just get back to your why as much as you can. Because you started this since it helped you. So, you started the business because, like, getting into food helped you.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing is, like, you know, if you come from that why, if you come from the question, for me it is, I tell myself every day, all day on repeat, like, how can this add value? How can this add value? Whatever I'm doing. The thing is, money comes from that. So when I'm making money, I can reinvest it back into my business, be my best self. And that helps me add more value. So like they seem like they're worlds apart. You know, one's this sort of like meta, like I want to help people, you know, one of them is like money.
Right.
But they're actually like very much, you know, they overlap. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, I think that's always kind of my struggle too, is I've always known what I wanted to do and why I want to do it. I've always had a very strong why with everything. But my thing was always, am I going to be able to make money from it? Because what I do sometimes I think is almost so niche. And it sounds like you too, really.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to make money with our niche thing? But I'm realizing when you but when you like go after your why and you really just focus in on that, the money like almost magically appears,
totally,
you know?
That's exactly right. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where that magic comes from. Like some, you know, depending on your belief system, it can come from, there's a lot of different names for it, you know, but it's so true that really you have to be changing your foundational question. And that's where it all stems from there, you know, so many. And I understand, like, as we head into this, you know, this new millennial world where I think a lot less people are getting married, a lot less people are having kids. There's a lot more single women entrepreneurs like wanting to do that for themselves, wanting to take care of themselves. I can understand how the initial instinct is to say is to start with the question of what makes me money and how to make money. But it's not going to happen like that. You have to figure out, you know, what do you have to add to the world, plus what you enjoy, you know, what are your specific, you know, magical powers or whatever. And then be smart about it. You know, I'm not saying like just be like a, you know, brilliant artist that just like sits in their apartment all day. But yeah, you have to start from that, because really it's the difference between a scarcity mentality and abundance mentality. You know, if you're coming from a place of what you have to give to the world, like you are in just boundless like fountain of you know, of what you can give. Really? And that's, you know, that's abundance. You know, starting from a place of how do I make money? I mean, that's total scarcity mentality.
I'm reading a book right now. Do you know who Lisa Nichols is? Okay, so she was on the Lewis Howes podcast, so that's how I found out about it. But she's all about, she came from this like really scarcity minded background and was like living on food stamps for a really long time, all that kind of stuff. And now is one of the highest grossing females or something like that.
I think I might have listened to, when it was that episode?
Probably like a year or two
Yeah,
ago.
I think I listened to that.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name though.
Yeah.
That's freaking amazing.
And she has a book called Abundance Now. So I'm reading it and I'm just, I've always known that my mindset was more like limiting and stuff, but I guess I didn't really know where it was coming from. And so now I'm breaking that down and I really like want to step out and have this abundance mindset because when you think abundantly and have this mindset of possibility, literally anything is possible.
Totally.
Literally anything.
Right. Yeah. It's like what could be, you know, I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's important to note, like I think you would probably agree. I'm not saying that everyone should go and quit their jobs and go like, I think you can pursue that and be responsible about it as well and be organized while also having this incredible mentality, you know. You can still make a lot of headway towards that ultimate goal within the structure of your, you know, your current life too. So,
and did you kind of like going into more shame too, did you like really find yourself striving to earn your worth almost?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I still struggle with that sometimes when I take on something new, especially like, you know, I think we all suffer from imposter syndrome and I'm definitely no different. I wonder all the time, like, why the heck does anybody listen to me, you know? Yeah. And I definitely had a lot of shame. I mean, divorce is a very shameful thing. Oh, I'm sure. It makes you feel broken and like, you know, unfixable and, you know, and, tainted and all this stuff. And so I really had to just kind of work through that by honestly, there was nothing specific to do other than to just put one foot in front of the other and take it 1 hour at a time with that perspective instead of focusing on, but I mean, those feelings were real. Those dark feelings were real. I mean, they still creep in on me every now and again because we all go through times of growth and times that feel stagnant or that you feel like you're, what is it, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But I really have gotten to a point where I have a really good gratitude practice, and then I have a really good system of like stopping and asking myself those questions and seeking help. I mean, like I'm always working with mentors, and you know, I try to surround myself with people who are smarter than me and know stuff I don't know.
Totally. And I think like the most important thing that I'm learning right now, and it's actually coming from my doctor. I go to a holistic health doctor, and
Who do you see?
Dr. Motley.
Okay. I have a guy. I know.
I always want people to know who he is.
Yeah. No,
which
spread the word.
Kind of blowing up right now.
Good for him.
I think you'll learn about him soon. But he like talked about how for the longest time he put so many like huge expectations on himself, and he tried to create his own success with everything. Yeah. So much so that he literally ended up in the hospital with a ruptured stomach ulcer.
Oh, jeez.
Basically almost died. Like very close. Was in the ICU and basically was like literally laying in the bed and had like a moment with God where there was I guess he like kind of literally saw God like at the foot of his bed, and God said to him, he goes, Chris, what is it that you want to do? Not what does everyone else want you to do.
Right.
What do you want to do? And that's when he decided, he was like, I want to have fun. Like, I just want to have fun, and I don't want to like strive anymore. I don't want to try and create my own success. I want to still be significant and be successful and that kind of stuff, but I don't want to try and create it. I just want to rest and like trust that everything is going to work itself out.
That's so cool.
Right? And that's like the place that I'm trying to get into, because I'm such a like goal and success oriented person, which I feel very similar to you. So I just want to like encourage both of us to rest in knowing that we are enough just as we are, and like allow those opportunities to come to us while we're working hard, but we're not necessarily striving for creating our own opportunities. You know?
I love that. And I think that's it's such a powerful and tricky thing to do. But I think it's so important. It's something I'm working on. That reminds me, this guy I'm working with now, he's a mentor. One of the things he talks a lot about is taking radical responsibility for not just yourself, but everyone in your life. And while at the same time, like letting people do their own thing and know that they have autonomy. And it's this tricky thing where it's just about how you show up. It's just about how you're being. It's not about what you're doing. It's just in every scenario, if you take radical responsibility for the people that are with you, you're just doing your best to have a positive impact on them in that moment. It doesn't mean you need to be stressing about every detail of your life. Nobody can take that on. So it is, it's this like kind of delicate dance. But when I'm sure, you have moments of flow, like where you feel like you kind of get it, and it's
Everything's
awesome.
Like running smoothly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it goes away and it comes and goes, but that's
totally
cool. Like that's the journey of being human.
Yeah.
So, but I love that. Yeah. It's awesome.
Who would you say has been kind of like holding you up during this entire experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, really, I would say first my two best friends. Okay. They're totally my chosen family, and they're really smart, amazing, cool women, and just so thoughtful and loyal. And so, they really did the thing when I needed them. They let me basically bother them 24/7 for a while. Yeah. So props to them for sure. My family was amazing. I chose not to go to my parents. My parents are here in Nashville. I chose not to put too much on them because they had their own grieving process, like I said, like he was, he's a great guy. He was part of the family. Yeah. They were really close with him. So I didn't want to try to lean on them too much because they really needed to work through some of that themselves. Totally. And then I have a woman here in Nashville who has been like a mentor and second mom to me. Her name is Alice Randall. She actually wrote the foreword of my first book. She's brilliant. Really? Yeah, she's amazing. I met her when I was 12. She taught a class. What? And when I was in middle school, middle school, when she taught a class at my school, and we hit it off. I mean, we were, 30 years apart or whatever, but we hit it off. And she has just always been this like angel in my life. I remember she called me right around the time I was graduating from culinary school. She gave me my first job in food, working with her down at Vanderbilt. And she just like can see into my soul. You know what I mean? And she's just always been there with the right things to say. So
dang, that's amazing.
Yeah. I feel very lucky.
Yeah. And when you like have these moments where maybe you fall back into this anxious state or this fear-based state, what do you kind of do? Like you were saying, you have these gratitude practices, but what are the other sort of things that you have to do for yourself?
Yeah, so I would say for me, definitely being outside and spending some time. I'm like total introvert, and so being alone in nature is like hugely powerful. So hiking or just going for a walk or something, that's really big. I love to draw, which is so dorky, but I love to draw. So I will just like literally stop everything and just spend the day drawing. I also about 4 times a year take myself to Asheville, North Carolina. Okay. It's super weird. So I literally woke up one day 5 years ago and I have no idea. I went to Asheville once with my family like 20 years ago, but I had no attachment to it. And I woke up one day and I was like, I have to go to Asheville. I don't know why, but I have to go. Okay. And I got there and I was just like, this is like my home away from home. And maybe someday, fingers crossed, could be my home. Yeah. And so since then, I go there about 3 or 4 times a year for, 4 to 5 days. Okay. And it's just like my place to totally recharge. And I don't know. Have you ever heard of the concept of thin spaces? No. It's really cool. So basically, it's this concept. There are pockets of our world that are very thinly veiled when it comes to us and the divine, whatever you believe in. It's easier to communicate and connect with the divine in these thin spaces.
Like free of distractions or something, or what?
I think it's more sort of like on an energetic level. There's just not as much distance and like stuff between us. Yeah. And I've totally felt that. I've felt that in Arizona, a couple places in Arizona, right?
Arizona, my
That's the
absolute
thing.
favorite place.
If you think about it, you probably have a place like that in your life where you just...
I mean, if I could retreat to Arizona at all times, I would.
Right?
That is my one place.
That's so cool. Where in Arizona?
Well, either Sedona or specifically Scottsdale.
Oh my God, yes.
Scottsdale.
Magic. Yes. Yeah. That part of the country, in Arizona has a special place in my heart too. It really, there's just something about it, right? When you're there, like... you just feel more connected to everything
to the divine.
Yeah,
like the world.
Yeah, everything. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, taking if you can, whether it's like just for a few nights and it's a road trip, like take yourself to a thin space, look them up, see if you have one near you, and maybe you'll have like a magical experience. Who knows?
Well, so it sounds like for you it's play almost.
Yeah, for sure. Just
celebrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like chilling out a little. I mean, cooking is for sure my therapy. It's my favorite thing to do, and it still is my favorite thing to do. But I have a hard time, like we were talking about this earlier. I have a hard time cooking and not feeling like I need to be measuring and counting and recording because I feel like someone's gonna want this recipe, right? And so I have a hard time just cooking for fun. So like if I'm out of town and I'm cooking, I mean that's amazing, and I'm just like chilling. But so, and then I do a gratitude journal. I mean, or I'll say it out loud sometimes, and that's really powerful.
Yeah, I know people do that. Like I do that, and then a lot of other people do positive affirmations and stuff. Yeah,
that's cool too.
Just like literally looking in the mirror and speaking life over yourself, essentially.
You might. It's like, why the heck not? Yeah.
Seriously.
One of my best friends just did a triathlon, which is no joke. Like that is
like one of the hardest things to do, right?
It is 100%.
Yeah.
She did the Ironman. Wait, are they different?
Oh wait, it's part of the triathlon.
Yeah, she did the Ironman,
right.
so I guess it's triathlon. It is literally one of the physically most difficult things that a human being can do, and you can't listen to music so it's a mile swim, a 50-mile bike, and a 13.6 mile.
10 plus hours or something like that.
She started at like 7:30 and she was done. Gosh, I don't want to get it wrong. Maybe 4:30 or 5. So it's a big chunk of the day, right? I know. There are some physical things I would actually be interested in doing. Yeah. That is not one of them.
Yeah, same.
That is not one of them. But because she couldn't listen to music, she had mantras that she said got her through by just saying them on repeat. I mean, imagine over the course of hours and hours how many times you say those mantras, thousands and thousands and thousands.
Yeah,
but it worked. It got her through.
Wow, that's wild.
I know, it's so cool.
I'm not doing a triathlon.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm all set on on
right
that. Yeah.
So who would you say Laura Lee is now that you've really unlocked your freedom?
Well, it changes every day.
Still a work in progress.
It changes every day. I mean, some days I feel totally like an infinite, powerful, divine being that can take over the world. And some days I feel super human and vulnerable. But either way, what I wasn't before that I am now is very much in my own skin and very comfortable with whatever that means. I mean, really, I was numbing myself in some capacity for almost a decade and so just skin crawling in my own body. I just hated being in my own body because I hated the way I was showing up in the world. And now I'm just very much myself, whatever that looks like. I think for women, honestly, no offense, guys, but I really do think we can be so many things even in a given day. And I love that. I love the shape shifting that comes with that. But at my core, I just feel like I'm really myself.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, all about what freedom is.
Yeah.
Just being you.
Totally.
And being your full self, stepping into your full self, and being unapologetic about it.
There's no reason not to. You can't do anything about it. The alternative is to do what I did, which I think a lot of people do, but you can't
run away from who you are.
Right.
Or just numb, distract.
Yeah. So, and we all have so much amazing, powerful content and value to add to the world. So
Yeah. What would you say has been maybe an inspirational quote, someone's story, a book even that you've read that you feel really connects with your own?
So there's actually a book called She's Come Undone. Have you ever heard of it? So it's called She's Come Undone. It's by a guy named Wally Lamb.
Okay.
And it is a really amazing, it's a coming of age story, but it's a coming of self story. And it's written by a man, but somehow, I don't know how he does it, but he gets into the head of this female character.
Yeah.
And it is hands down my all-time favorite book. I read it a couple of times a year since I was 12 years old.
What?
And yeah, it's been kind of like a guiding mantra for me, not because there's some really dark moments in it, but because it is so raw and real and but also so redemptive. And I would say that it's just that whole, because even just the title, She's Come Undone, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we all need to sometimes
of ourselves.
Literally unzip ourselves and let our insides
be
just
exposed.
come out.
That's what I call it. Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Dang, that's good.
It's cool. Yeah, I think you would like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, She's Come Undone?
She's Come Undone.
Okay. I will definitely be adding that to my book list.
Yeah.
Okay. And then where can people find you on social media?
So my Instagram is at Laura Lee Balanced, which is spelled, the Lee is spelled Lea. So it's Laura Lea Balanced. And my website is llbalanced.com. And that's pretty much where I spend most of my time. So.
And like your book and stuff?
Oh,
LL
yeah,
Balance
my book.
Yeah.
So yeah, my book, the first book is the Laura Lee Balanced Cookbook. Amazon is probably the best place to get it, honestly. I tell people just because the prices are the best there. And then my second book is coming out in April.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very excited. So that will be available for pre-order in November. So, but I'll be sharing all about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and like sharing. Well, it's cool to connect with someone who's like very business oriented and like goal oriented.
Yeah.
But to talk about kind of being uncomfortable in our own skin and like the shame in that, but also how we've allowed ourselves to come undone so that our true identities can be like, what's the word? Present.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh, totally.
So I just acknowledge you for sharing that, because I know that like, even though you said you haven't necessarily gone through some major tragedy, like I think it's just still powerful for you to share how you like went through the eating stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
And just know like your story is going to bring healing to the world. Like the people that are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah. So. That's as good as it gets. So
yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
it. I loved it. Yeah.
If you want more life-giving conversations like what you heard today with Laura Lee, then you can click the big red subscribe button. Also, go follow me on Instagram. It's The Rage Boss. You're hopefully going to find some weird, wild, but also inspiring content. I'd love to chat it up with you guys, hang out via the DMs. So yeah, go subscribe. And until that next time, we'll see you then. Bye.